All right. Best unit not only of the day, but in a while. How do you want to do this?
I don't know. But what I do know is we're about to make a crap ton of money. What's in that box?
Hold on, it's coming out. Heavy effort. That's you?
Okay.
Storage Wars was built on one simple question. What's hiding behind the locked door? Ironically, the biggest mystery wasn't inside a storage unit. It was Jarrod Schulz himself. While he spent years searching for hidden treasure on television, his own life was hiding legal troubles, a criminal past, a broken relationship, and a shocking disappearance from the show that left fans searching for answers.
I'm going all in on this one.
I need a straitjacket and a muzzle.
What the? That's right, eat your banana.
This is out of control.
Let's make it $3,000 bucks.
Yeah.
32. What about 30?
I really need to get a muzzle for him.
Well, if they're all done, gotta go into what about 33.50 once, and I'm gonna go now. Sold it your way for 250 big bucks. Jared, Brandy, 32.50. Goodbye.
So what really happened to Jarrod Schulz? Join us as we uncover the story that proved his biggest secret was never locked inside a storage unit. The young gun before anyone knew his name. Before Jarrod Schulz was one half of Storage Wars' most entertaining couple, he was just a guy from California with a complicated history and a talent for spotting value in things other people had written off. The early chapters of his life were not particularly television-friendly. According to court records, in January 1997, when Jarrod was just 19 years old, he was sentenced to 60 days in jail for possession of a controlled substance. After his release, he was arrested again for drug possession, and this time sentenced to 16 months in prison. By his early 20s, he had already done actual prison time. That is the version of Jarrod Schulz that the show never introduced. He came out of that period and redirected. He got into the working world. He found himself in a cleaning business in 1999, where he held a position senior enough that he was assigned to guide newer employees. One of those newer employees was a woman named Brandy Passante. She was the new hire. He was the one showing her the ropes. Neither of them had any idea that this cleaning company job was the beginning of one of reality television's most watched relationships. After a lot of persuasion, they started dating and moved in together. They built a life in Orange County, California, and eventually had 2 children together, a daughter named Peyton and a son named Cameron. They called each other husband and wife. They introduced each other as husband and wife. They never actually got married, which is a detail that becomes more relevant later in the story when things start falling apart, and there are no legal structures in place to manage the separation. They were not famous yet, or even close to famous. They were 2 people in Orange County with kids, and a cleaning business background, and no particular plan to be on television. And then Storage Wars happened, and everything changed faster than either of them was ready for. So what was the show? And what did it do to the 2 of them? What the show actually was. Storage Wars premiered on A&E on December 1st, 2010. The format was simple and genuinely compelling. Professional buyers would attend auctions for abandoned storage units, bid on the contents without being able to open or fully inspect them beforehand, and then reveal what they had purchased to the cameras. Everything was about the gamble. You might open a unit that had been storing someone's grandmother's antique jewelry collection. You might open a unit full of broken exercise equipment and old magazines. You did not know until you paid. Jarrod and Brandy were introduced as the Young Guns, the youngest bidders in the main cast, the couple whose bickering and bantering gave the show its most reliably entertaining subplot. They had genuine chemistry on screen, the specific kind that comes from 2 people who have actually been together long enough to finish each other's sentences and argue about each other's decisions in real time. The audience loved them immediately. The show was a hit. Storage Wars consistently ranked among A&E's most watched programs during its peak years, drawing millions of viewers per episode. Jared and Brandy rode that visibility into their own spin-off. Brandy and Jared, Married to the Job, premiered in 2014 and ran for 8 episodes, following the couple as they ran their Now and Then thrift store in California. The business they had opened using their Storage Wars winnings and their developing eye for resaleable inventory. In Season 4 of the main show, they opened a second Now and Then location in Long Beach. It never turned a profit and closed in 2016. The gap between the public image of the successful young gun couple and the private reality of a business that was losing money was the first visible crack in a picture that the cameras were still mostly presenting as intact. Brandy later said in a 2020 interview on the Spirit Talk YouTube channel that she had not been allowed to have an identity for a long time, and that in the couple of years before the split, she had been figuring out who she was. Those words did not explain what happened, but they described a woman who had spent years inside a relationship that required her to be one specific thing and had started the process of becoming something else. So when exactly did the relationship actually end? And why did the public not find out about it until years after it was over? The breakup nobody knew about until it was on camera. Here is how fans found out their favorite Storage Wars couple broke up. They turned on the Season 13 premiere, which aired on April 20th, 2021, and Brandy Passante looked at the camera and said, "On television, I am not with Jared anymore." That sentence was the first public confirmation of a split that had actually happened years earlier. Brandy revealed during the Season 13 premiere that she had ended things with Jared after they completed filming the 12th season, which had premiered in November 2018. They had been broken up for over 2 years before anyone watching the show knew about it. The 2-year gap between the actual breakup and the public disclosure is one of those reality television details that hits differently once you understand it. There was a 2-year hiatus in the show's production between Season 12 and Season 13, running from 2019 to 2021. During that entire hiatus, the fans who loved the Young Guns as a couple were operating under the assumption that the couple was still together. The show had stopped airing, but the image was still intact. Then the show came back and immediately dismantled the image. The A&E network confirmed that both Jared and Brandy were part of the returning cast for Season 13, but that they would be bidding independently rather than as a team. The network's statement was the most diplomatic possible framing of a situation where 2 ex-partners who also broke up their thrift store business were now going to have to coexist on a television set. Jared, for his part, was still present in the first episode of Season 13. He said in an interview for that episode that just because he and Brandy were not together anymore did not mean they could not go to an auction, just separately. In the first episode, Brandy called him an idiot for spending $400 on a storage unit that did not look profitable. Some things had not changed. But while the cameras were capturing this awkward post-breakup professional coexistence, something was already happening off-screen that was going to make the professional coexistence irrelevant. Because 1 month after Season 13 premiered, Jarrod Schulz was arrested again. Let's reveal what was happening behind the scenes. The charges that ended his television career. On April 30th, 2021, Brandy Passante was at a bar in Lake Forest, Orange County, California, with a group of friends. Jared showed up at the same bar. According to law enforcement sources speaking to TMZ, the exes got into a heated exchange, and Brandy told Jared to leave. He did not leave. According to the same sources, at some point Jared allegedly pushed Brandy twice while yelling at her and her group. Someone called the police. By the time officers arrived, Jared had left the premises. The police took a report. A few days later, officers contacted Jarrod to take his statement. He denied ever getting physical with Brandy during the exchange. The Orange County District Attorney's Office was not persuaded by his denial. They charged him with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. A spokesperson for the Orange County District Attorney's Office confirmed the charges to People magazine. A&E launched an investigation into Jarrod's future on the show following the charges. The outcome of that investigation was never formally announced, but the result was visible. When Storage Wars returned for season 14 in late 2021, Jarrod Schulz was not in it. No explanation was provided by the network. He was simply gone. The domestic violence charge was not Jarrod's only active legal problem at that point. It was not even the only one he had accumulated since Storage Wars made him famous. The domestic violence charge was the one that made the headlines because it involved Brandy, and because the show's audience had an emotional investment in both of them. But the investigative coverage of Jarrod's legal situation revealed a fuller picture that had been accumulating for years. In July 2019, Jarrod was charged with resisting an officer after an incident in Lake Forest, California. This charge was filed before the domestic violence arrest in 2021, before the show went on its 2-year hiatus, during a period when he was still nominally part of the Storage Wars cast. In October 2021, he was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more. The violation date was October 5, 2021. So by the end of 2021, Jarrod Schulz was facing 3 separate open criminal cases: resisting an officer from 2019, domestic violence battery from 2021, and DUI from 2021. According to Orange County court records, all 3 cases were still open and had been combined, with a jury trial scheduled for the morning of June 20th, 2023. The trial date was pushed back. In July 2023, all 3 criminal cases against Jarrod were pushed back further. The battery charge had been slightly reformulated. Both the DUI and the resisting arrest cases were scheduled for a pretrial hearing on July 24, 2023. The ongoing legal situation, with its combined charges and rescheduled hearings, pointed toward a plea deal being negotiated that would avoid an actual trial. What the outcome of those proceedings actually was has not been publicly confirmed in any court document or press release that is part of the available public record. What is confirmed is that Jarrod Schulz has not appeared as a regular Storage Wars cast member since 2021, and that A&E has not announced any plans to return him to the show. And while all of this legal machinery was grinding forward in Orange County courtrooms, the businesses that had been built around the Jarrod and Brandy brand were going quiet in a way that told their own story. The social media absence. The Now and Then thrift store was the physical manifestation of what Jarrod and Brandy had built together during the Storage Wars years. It was the retail operation they funded with their bidding profits and used as the setting for their spin-off show. It was the business that had given them an identity outside of the bidding floor. The Now and Then thrift store Facebook page had not shared any post since 2020, as of late 2021 reporting on Jarrod's situation. There was no announcement of closure or farewell post, just silence, which in the social media era is its own kind of statement. Jarrod had also operated a bar and grill called Rush Bar and Grill. Its social media accounts had not been updated since late 2021. His online merchandise operation, Outlaw Apparel, had also gone inactive. The combination of dead social media accounts, a thrift store that stopped communicating publicly, a bar and grill that went quiet, and a complete absence from the show that had made both of them famous, painted a picture of someone who had stepped entirely out of public life and was managing a legal situation from a position of deliberate silence. This kind of disappearance from public view is not unusual for someone facing criminal charges and media coverage of the kind that Jared was navigating. Saying anything publicly creates material that can be used in legal proceedings. Saying nothing is safer. But the silence also meant that the narrative around him was being written entirely by press coverage of the charges, by Brandy's continued presence on the show, and by the audience's collective memory of who the young guns had been. Brandy kept going. She appeared in Season 13, Season 14, and subsequent seasons as a solo bidder. She rebuilt her public identity as an independent operator. She had described in 2020 not having been allowed to have an identity for years. The seasons after the split showed a version of Brandy Passante, who was very clearly in the process of figuring out exactly who that identity was going to be. So where is Jarrod Schulz right now? And is there any version of this story that ends with him coming back? Where Jarrod Schulz is now, and what is actually left? As of 2025, Jarrod Schulz has an estimated net worth of approximately $3 million, which represents the accumulated financial result of 12 seasons of Storage Wars, the spin-off show, the Now and Then thrift store, the Rush Bar and Grill, and the various brand and merchandise operations that the show's visibility made possible. The number reflects years of work during the show's peak period rather than current active income, since the business operations that were generating that income have all gone publicly silent. His social media presence is minimal to non-existent in any active sense. The legal proceedings that were ongoing as of mid-2023 have not produced any publicly confirmed resolution in the available record. He has not given any major interviews about the domestic violence charge, the DUI, the resisting arrest charge, or his departure from Storage Wars. What his ex-partner and co-star Brandy Passante has done in the same period is instructive by contrast. She continued appearing on Storage Wars through its most recent seasons, establishing herself as a solo competitor in the format that had originally required two of them. She has spoken openly in interviews about the process of finding her own identity after years in a relationship and on a show where she was always part of a pair. In her Spirit Talk interview, she described feeling that she had not been allowed to have an identity for many, many years, and that the years following the split had been a process of coming into her own and figuring out who she was. That description is consistent with someone who felt the relationship had been constrained in ways that went beyond the ordinary pressures of a long-term partnership conducted in the public eye. The domestic violence charge between two specific people who were also long-term partners, who also had children together, who also worked together on a television show for 12 seasons, exists in a context that is genuinely complicated to process from the outside. What the court record shows is a charge filed by the Orange County District Attorney's Office following an investigation. What the personal reality of a situation involving two parents to the same children looks like in private is something that neither of them has chosen to fully share. Storage Wars as a show has continued without Jared and has not missed a beat in commercial terms. Brandy remains part of the cast. The format has added new cast members over the seasons to replace the ones who have left. As reality television formats always do, when the human material they depend on becomes unavailable or complicated. The storage unit that was Jarrod Schulz's post-Storage Wars life, when you finally get it open, does not contain the treasure most fans were hoping for. It contains a set of legal charges, a collection of businesses that went silent, a relationship that ended in ways that are documented in court records, and a man who has been doing the one thing that reality television personalities almost never do: staying completely and entirely out of public view. Whether that silence is strategy, shame, genuine desire for privacy, legal caution, or some combination of all four, is something that only Jared Schulz knows. What the public record shows is a man who built something significant during 12 seasons of television, who accumulated legal problems during and after those same seasons, whose relationship with the person he built it with ended in a bar in Lake Forest, and who has not been seen or heard in any significant public capacity since. What do you think was the biggest turning point in Jarrod Schulz's life? And do you think he will ever make a return to television? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.